Hello everyone, it's Jen, Scrapbena Creations. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I have 20 cards for you using the Doodlebug Made with Love collection. Now, in addition to the 6x6 paper pad and the odds and ends ephemera, I did pick up those cute little sprinkles of chocolate chips, which in the end I didn't even use on these cards. I may need to go back and add them to some of the cards. I also pulled out some cardstock. This is some older, probably retired Stampin' Up! Cardstock. And then I did purchase 4 12x12 of the pattern paper just to give me some wiggle room so I could potentially make some slimline cards, and I did make a bunch. Now I loved this chocolate chip cookie and chocolate chip pattern paper, so I did buy 2 of those 12x12s, but I only used 1. So here's a quick look at the 6x6 paper pad. Now, originally the plan was for Christine Marcotte and I to do a collaboration with this. Unfortunately, it took a really long time for me to get the collection, so she has an amazing video out using this paper pad plus the ephemera, and I think she got the chocolate chip sprinkles too. So I will link to her video down below and at the end of this video in case you missed it, but go on over and see the cards that she created. Now for the sentiments, I'm bringing in a bunch of stamp sets that I just have in my stash. So I'm using the Lawn Fawn Baked with Love, the Lawn Fawn Cutie Pie, Lawn Fawn Sweet Friends. Some of these are really old. My CC Designs Yum Yum Cupcake. And then the Doodlebug Love You. I'm using this Heffy Doodle stamp set called Party Palooza for one of the sentiments, and then the Simon Says stamp, I Choose You. I went ahead and stamped them all out with some white embossing powder on top of my Versamark ink, my VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink, and then heat embossed all the sentiments and then just cut them out so I had them while I was creating the cards. And I've never really done that before, and I found it super helpful to create all those sentiments beforehand. So we're already into card number 1, and I cut into the 12x12 pattern paper first. So I am creating a slimline card here that measures 3.5 by 8.5, and I'm using a scalloped die. This is, I believe, this is from Heffy Doodle, and all of the products that I'm using today, including this Doodlebug collection, will be listed in the description box below so that you can easily get to whatever it is that you need to see up close or perhaps purchase. But this collection was super popular, so I'm sure many of you already have this collection in your stash. So you can see I'm just creating a little strip with the blue and white plaid along the bottom. Then I cut out a circle with some of that kind of darker pink cardstock that I'm using. And then I added the little cupcake and the sprinkles bottle. And the sentiment that I'm using is You're the Sprinkles on My Cupcake. And that one is from the Lawn Fawn Sweet Friends. Felt like it needed something a little bit extra, so I added 3 of the heart ephemera, and that completes card number 1, and we can move on to card number 2 using the chocolate chip cookie and the chocolate chips 12x12 pattern paper. So I've already gone ahead and cut the pattern paper out with my Whimsy Stamps Marquee Slimline die. I love this. You've seen me use this several times if you are a repeat viewer, and if you're new, I am really enjoying various slimline products, and I really like these ones that have the multiple kind of openings to help build little scenes. So for this card, I'm not actually building a scene. I'm going to make a shaker card using some of the ephemera chocolate chips. I added some foam tape, and then I use projector film, and I use that as acetate. It's really affordable, and so I use 1 sheet to the front, and then you can see here I'm using the second sheet over the back. This just makes adding your shaker elements to your card bases so much easier. but I was trying to figure out how I was going to line up the pattern paper. So I just used the little flimsy sheet that came in between the overhead projector, the separate sheets, and I cut that out with the Slimline Marquee die there. And then I thought this would help me to place my pieces of paper. So I'm using some of the pink pattern paper. I think it says Love You multiple times. Yeah, it does. And then that chocolate chip cookie is just the back from one of the first cutouts that I did for the actual Slimline panel here that I created as the shaker. So I didn't quite get that bottom one perfectly lined up, but it's pretty close, and I think that was probably the easiest way to get that lined up. Just using a little bit of liquid glue here so I have some wiggle room so I can get this in place. And of course, because of the camera above me, it's hard to get over top of it, so I did have to play around with that, but I think I got it lined up pretty well. Then I'm going to use 2 of the chocolate chip cookies, one to the top opening and one to the bottom. And then I'm using You're a Smart Cookie as the sentiment, and that one is from the Simon Says stamp. I Choose You stamp set. So there's the shaker card. Super cute. I love how it turned out. Moving on to card number 3. This is a really simple design, but I think it's so cute. That chocolate chip cookie paper is just the sweetest thing. So I cut that out with a scallop die. This one is from Heffy Doodle. I love the scallop border that it gives. And then I've already gone ahead and popped up the little cookie sheet of cookies on some foam tape, and I'm just going to kind of have that on a little bit of an angle at the top of the card, and that will basically be it. I'm going to use the same sentiment again as the previous card, You're a Smart Cookie. This time though, I just kind of fussy cut around the sentiment and added it over top of one of those cookies. And then I'm just going to add a small pink heart here to the bottom right hand corner. It just picks up on the pink of their cheeks. So just adding a touch of color. And there's that card complete. And we can move on to another Slimline card. This is card number 4. I made quite a few of the Slimlines near the beginning because I started with the 12 by 12 pattern paper. I do show you the cards in sequence of how I actually made them. So I typically do this in my videos so that you can kind of follow along with my thought process from card 1 to the final card that I made, just depending on how many I'm making. But I think it's also helpful too because how I create a card is often dictated by what pattern paper or ephemera I have left. So I do like to show the cards in the sequence that I made them. I don't know. I think it just helps with the process. So moving on to card number 5, I am using an MFT sketch for this one. So there was these, well, there's more than 3. I'm using 3 on this card. The sugar cookies, they're so cute. There's a few that are circular and then a few that are heart-shaped. So I'm going to use 2 of the circle sugar cookies and then 1 of the heart ones. And so I decided to use this sketch from MFT because it has the 4 circles in the center. So I cut out those circles with some of the cardstock, and I'm going to place my sentiment in the 4th circle. And again, using that same sentiment, You're a Smart Cookie. I didn't really have another sentiment that went with the cookie, so I feel like now I'm kind of on the hunt for a good cookie type stamp set that kind of gives you more than the You're a Smart Cookie. I've seen that quite a few times, and I'm not overly sure how often I would use a sentiment like that, but it's super cute with these Doodlebug cards, so I keep that stamp set largely. Well, I love the Simon Says stamp, I Choose You, because it was one of the original collaborations with Doodlebug, but I do like this sentiment as well. So here's a close-up look at this card, and I'm just going to show you it with the sketch again so you can see how it came out in comparison to that sketch. So for the next card, I'm using another sketch. I think I use a sketch for almost all, if not all, of the A2 size cards I make, which are standard American size at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So besides the Slimlines, which all measure 3 1/2 by 8 1/2, the other size that I'm creating today is the A2 size. So for this one, I'm using the sketch. I really love how this card turned out. I think it's really pretty, kind of focusing on that little bit of floral paper to the bottom, and you'll see I'll tie that in with the ephemera. Just leaving a little bit of a white border for this card, which I really like because there's lots of white in that pattern paper with the flowers. I did cut out a circle with just regular white cardstock and then another one with the pink pattern paper that says Love You. I also cut out a border with, this is Lawn Fawn, a scalloped border with that pink paper as well. I didn't have very much left, so you can see me here. I'm trying to use up every little bit that I have, and so I just cut it down the center and I'm having it on either side so that the ephemera will cover up where I didn't have enough of that pattern paper. So I am going to use that flourish just above the border, and I have that up on some foam tape as well as the little kettle. So I'm going to center the kettle onto the circle, and then I'm going to use the sentiment warm birthday wishes. I thought that worked well, given you can boil a kettle and it would be warm. I don't have a lot of tea stamps or anything like that, so this was, I thought, the closest. And here's another look at that card with the sketch. So next I moved on to the ephemera, the little pie, and then the next card after that is the cake. So this is a really simple card design following the MFT sketch. I'm using, it's kind of hard to see, but that pink pattern paper in the background has monochromatic hearts on it. So it almost looks like I'm using cardstock, but it is a piece of pattern paper from the 6x6 paper pad. I loved this little fork and spoon pattern paper, so I decided to use that with my stitched semicircle die. This is from Sunny Studio, and created a little area for my pie. And then I'm using the Sentiment High Cutie Pie, and that's from the Lawn Fawn mini stamp set called Cutie Pie. Also decided to add 3 hearts here. I felt like it needed a little something in that left-hand side, but you can see I'm playing around with placement quite a bit here for these hearts, but I wanted to leave it in so you can see that it doesn't always come together as quickly as you might think, placing those little hearts, or even if you're placing sequins or enamel dots or something, sometimes you just have to fiddle with them a little to get something that's pleasing to your eye. So I do really like the placement of these in the end, but you saw I played around with them a little bit there. So there's another look at the sketch, and then we can move on to card number 8. And this little cake is so cute. So this is where I've decided to use the Heffy Doodle stamp from Party Palooza, and it reads Happy Cake Day to You. I just think that's so cute and goes perfectly with this little cake with the strawberry on top. So I'm using that plaid pattern paper for the back. Just cut that at 4 by 5 1/4 to leave me that white border. I'm going to use a square here, so I have some of the some of the bluish kind of aqua turquoise plaid pattern paper, and I've layered that onto some of the darker pink cardstock, and then I'm going to add this polka dot paper kind of on an angle behind my square cutouts there, and I think that just breaks up that busy plaid pattern paper nicely. I really like too how the bright pink cardstock matches perfectly with the bright pink in the cake. You'll see that here in a second once I get my squares adhered down. So once I get the paper in place, I'll bring in the ephemera. Of course, I added some foam tape to my little cake, and then I'm going to add the sentiment to the bottom right-hand side of the card. I played around with whether I would have it right to the end of the card across the white border, but in the end decided to line it up with that plaid pattern paper, and I really like how that turned out. So we're going to move on to the next card, card number 9, and I'm back making another slimline card. I do have a few more. I really love how this turned out. It's so simple, but I think it actually might be one of my favorite cards. So there was this huge refrigerator ephemera piece, and looking at the chits and chats, is that what it's called? Anyways, the ephemera pack that has all the sentiments in it, there was this sentiment that said, "You're cool." So I decided to take out some of my alphabet dies here. These ones happen to be the Alphabetters by Heffy Doodle. And I cut out the word cool, and then I stamped out the word your. So the sentiment will read, "You're cool." And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to adhere the refrigerator to the top of my card. And then you can see there I used some of that yellow paper to cut a triangle just to break up that bottom part of the card, just to give it a little bit of interest. And then I'm going to go ahead and lay down my sentiment. Now I did cut out the word cool with some of that aqua kind of turquoisey cardstock that I had in my stash. And I like the bold color of that for the word cool, and also I think it goes well because it gives you, I don't know, I associate like the color blue with being cold. So I think that works out really well. Just going to add some black glaze pen to the eyes. I do that for all of my cards, whether I show them to you, show you me doing them on camera or not. So we have another slimline, and then there will be one more after this, and then it'll be regular size cards. But this one, oh my goodness, look at all the little baking utensils and the little cookies and the icing bag. I just had to get as many of these cute little ephemera onto one card as possible, and that's why I absolutely love slimline cards. It just gives you so much more room to play around and to add whatever you want. So I'm using the bag of powdered sugar, 2 of the circular sugar cookies, 1 of the heart sugar cookies, the little spoon, the little spatula, the icing sugar bag, and then the jar of sprinkles. And for these ones, I just went ahead and used liquid adhesive to adhere all of these down. You could definitely pop up all of these or some of these for some added interest if you wanted, but I do always like to create some cards that are really flat and easy to mail, just in case people prefer that. And sometimes it's nice just to have some that you know you can pop in the mail, and you don't have to worry about extra postage or anything like that. So for this sentiment, I'm using You're the Sweetest Friend, and the Scallop die is a smaller one from Heffy Doodle as well. So smaller than the other ones that I was using, but actually this one might be from Trinity Stamps. I'll have to double check that. It's either Heffy Doodle or Trinity, but regardless of who makes a scalloped die, I am loving them. I also have a bunch of the scalloped ones from Honeybee Stamps for A2 size cards, and I love them. I just love the look of the scallops. So here is the last slimline card I'm going to create. This is card number 11. So kind of similar to the previous card, although that one was all about baking, and this one is more about baking bread. So the sentiment that I'm using is "You are all I need." And then I have the little loaf pan there with the bread in it, and then the bowl with the mixer. And then I have some sugar, some flour, butter, and an egg. And then I have that cute little timer, which matches that plaid pattern paper perfectly. And then I decided to break up or kind of ground those images using a strip of that yellow and white polka dot paper. I think it picks up nicely on the yellow on the flower bag and of course for the butter and also on the mixing bowl. So again, I'm just going to adhere these down. No foam tape, but you could definitely add foam tape if that's your preference to have lots of dimension. I think they look cute either way. This would be such a perfect card for someone who bakes you a loaf of bread, which has been pretty popular, I guess. During COVID-19, I see a lot of social media where people are learning to make their own bread. So this could be a really cute thank you card if you're lucky enough to receive something like that. Or it also could just be a birthday card. You could stamp a birthday sentiment on the inside, which would be perfect for someone who loves to bake. So I'm just going to get this sentiment into place, and that will complete that card as well. So moving on to the next card, sticking with the same sentiment, you are all I need, for card number 12. There was this cute little ephemera piece with the rolling pin and the heart and the little heart tin. And so I'm going to use that as the focal point for my card. Now I did cut out a stitched oval with some of that cardstock that I've been using, and then using a strip of the Love You pink paper down the right hand side there, using the flower pattern paper for the background. So I love how all of these colors come together and just makes a really cute card. This collection was just absolutely adorable. So for the next card, I'm using this heart pattern paper as the background, and it measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now I had set out to do something way more elaborate with this card, but when I stamped out the sentiment, Love You More Than Chocolate, this is from the Doodlebug Love You stamp set. When I saw it across the bottom of my card panel here, the pattern paper, I really loved the look of it, that nice kind of chunky white strip along the bottom. And then I felt like it perfectly had a place for that chocolate bar and then that little single piece of chocolate there to go underneath it. Now I did have to pull that up a little bit, but a very, very simple card design, but I absolutely love it. Is this not the cutest, that little chocolate bar? And I mean, who doesn't love chocolate? Now I did kind of peel up a little bit of that cardstock when I pulled this back up. I just wanted to move it a little bit more to the right. So I am going to use my adhesive eraser, and that just fixes it up nicely, and you'd never know that I got that adhesive on there. So there's that card done. Now this card is super simple. Card number 14. There was this large kind of cabinet with all the baking goods. I love that little mixer and the vase of flowers. So I simply cut out the flower pattern paper with a stitched scalloped border die. This is the one from Honeybee Stamps that I was mentioning. Popped up that little cabinet on some foam tape and then stamped out the sentiment high. Added some black glaze pen to the eyes of the little characters, and that was it. Done. Easy peasy. So this card also is super simple. So for those last 6 cards, what I did was, I'm showing you here, I just randomly took out a paper from the MFT sketches that I've printed out, and I just decided to choose 6 on one sheet. So kind of challenging myself perhaps to choose some that I wouldn't normally choose. So that's how I created these next 6 cards. So this, I had the little chocolate chip piece left over from that shaker card that I created with the Whimsy Stamps Marquee die. So I just decided to use that, added a little chocolate chip on it, and then stamped XOXO, which is also from the Doodlebug Love You stamp set. And that's that card. Super simple. I'll show you the sketch here again that I'm using with this one. Now they used a square, but I'm just using that cutout so I didn't have to waste it. So for the next card, I'm using this sketch here, the second one that's on that sheet that I decided to use. So for the top, I'm using the pattern paper with all of the icons on it. And then the bottom, I'm using the little polka dot paper, which is really cute. So both of these pattern papers have all of the bright colors from the collection, and I just love how these two pattern papers look together. I did go ahead and cut a stitched oval with this is from the 12 by 12. You can see how large those polka dots are compared to the one from the pattern paper on the bottom, which is from the 6 by 6 paper pad. And then I'm just going to use the bottle of milk and one of the chocolate chip cookies and the sentiment to have a sweet birthday. And I think that looks really cute. So I am going to trim this sentiment down just a little bit, and then on the right hand side I am going to cut that at an angle, and I'm going to place this to the left hand side of the card. So I'll show you this with the sketch again, and then we'll move on to the third sketch on this particular piece of paper. And I will try to remember to leave the link to the MFT sketches where I print these off. I know a lot of you really like working with them as much as I do, so I will leave those in the description box for you as well. So this one, another really simple card design. I liked though how in this sketch the circle is over to the right top a little bit more. I don't know that I would think to do that on my own, so I really liked this design, and you may see me use this one again. So I'm using the warm birthday wishes for the flower, and I think that's kind of a perfect generic kind of birthday card. It would also have been a good get well soon card if I had thought about it, but I feel like I'm always in the need for birthday cards. So here's another card sketch that I'm using. I had a strip of that plaid paper, so I used that for a banner down the center, and then just using a piece of that yellow and white polka dot paper. Now I'm not really measuring these at all. I'm just sort of using the scraps that I have left over. Cut out a stitched circle for my little slice of pie there, and then I'm going to place the sentiment, "You're the sweetest friend," underneath that. Love how that one turned out too, that monochromatic kind of aqua turquoisey color. So I did follow the sketch fairly closely. I do feel like my little yellow rectangle piece there was a little bit wider than what was in the sketch, but that's okay. So moving on to the next card design. This one, I mean, it doesn't get much easier than this. I just have the pattern paper with all the little icons on the back, all the cooking ones, and then I'm using the apron, which is just the sweetest, and the little whisk here on top of a circle with the yellow and white pattern paper, and then I'm using the sentiment "Baked with Love" for this one. And that is that card complete, and I'll show you that sketch as well. So the sketch had the sentiment in the center. I just placed it on the bottom. So moving on to the next card. This is the last card, card number 20. I could take or leave this one. I'm not really sure how I feel about it, but I did use that sketch there for my 6th card on that particular piece of paper. So I went ahead and used the little cupcake pattern paper and backed that onto some of the mint colored cardstock. And then for the background, I'm using the colorful polka dot paper, which I absolutely love. I'm going to add the sentiment "to have a sweet day" to the bottom of my rectangle here, and then I'm going to add 2 of the cupcakes on that little focal panel there, the little rectangle. And that's kind of it for this card, so super easy. Take it or leave it. I'm not really sure I love it, but if you do have a favorite card, please let me know. I'm going to slow it down here, and I'm going to show you all of the 20 cards that I made today in no particular order. So for showing you the cards, I'm just going to start off with all the Slimline cards here. So I was able to make quite a few. I am enjoying having a couple sheets of the 12 by 12 size for the Slimline cards. And once I've shown you all the slimlines, here we go with the regular A2 size cards. Let me know down in the comments if you purchased this collection. It is super sweet. If you haven't bought it but you're thinking about it, don't forget that the links are in the description box below. And don't forget to go over and check out Christy's video. As I mentioned, I'll leave it in the description box and at the end of this video. Her cards were super, super cute. I wish we could have done a collab, but that's okay. We have decided on what collection we'll be using next, and that video should come out sometime in April, so stay tuned for another collaboration with my super talented friend, Christy Marcotte. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a fantastic day. I appreciate you spending time with me, and I'll see you really soon in the next one. Bye!